Okay, it's the end of the session. This is Stanley and this is Henry, or Hendry if you're on the East Coast. And this is their roadmap to success. These are bully sticks. You should not ever give your dogs raw hides. They're soaked in formaldehyde, which is human emulling fluid, as well as bleach and ammonia, and it leads to a lot of health issues. These are dried bull penises, but they are very good for dogs to chew on. All right, so we started off, you got the big end there. Let me give you the smaller end. That makes it easier for you. There we go. All right, so we started off the session by talking about exercise. The Guardians do a pretty good job of exercising them, and most of my clients, when I ask how many exercises you get, not enough is what they say. The Guardians here walk the dogs about every other day, which is substantially better than most of my clients. But we went over some other ways of exercise. Now remember, when you're walking them, now the video above on keeping the dogs calm on a leash, practice that until you can leash them up and they're both completely calm for the walk. Then do it with them both separately, and you'll notice you'll have much better walks. Now, when we walk dogs, we have a tendency to think of the locomotion of walking as the exercise, when in fact, the sniffing, it burns more energy and is more stimulating and more relaxing for dogs than the burning of energy from the movement. So when you're walking, instead of thinking, I'm going to walk around 2 blocks or 4 blocks or whatever, getting back to the house is our end point. And so anything that slows that down, if the dog wants to sniff, we go, come on, buddy, let's go. Like I said, sniffing is important, and it's really should be your goal. So instead of thinking of returning a lap, just say, I'm going to walk down this direction for 10 minutes if I have a 20 minutes to walk. At 10-minute mark, I cross the street, so I have fresh sniffs on the way back, and then the dog gets to sniff as much as you want. You might only go 3 houses, but you don't care because you're not thinking about getting around the block. You're just thinking about letting them sniff. Might be all sorts of amazing stuff to sniff in your neighbor's lawn. So walking is great, but there's other things that we can do, and we're in the Midwest. It's going to be crappy weather outside pretty quickly. So we talked about a doggy stairmaster, throwing the treat up and down the stairs. Remember, say the command word after the treat goes in the mouth, not just for this exercise, for any. So come up with a word that means go down south. And I would use the same words for both dogs. So let's say we say Mexico. Throw the treat to the bottom of the stairs with just Stanley. When Stanley licks it up, say the word Mexico, show him you have another treat. He runs to the top of the stairs. And this time you give him another one and call it Canada. Or you can call this whole thing NAFTA 2. And so the idea is each down up is 1 repetition. Keep doing with Stanley with an empty stomach the first time until he's like, you're crazy. But now 99 times, I'm not going down anymore. Now we know what his maximum number is. We want to exercise about 50 to 75% of that maximum number multiple times a day, ideally every 2 to 4 hours. And so that's a great way, and because these dogs are, right now they're kennel, I'm hoping the Guardians will switch over to more of a long-term confinement area, and put Stanley in the kitchen and put him, set up an X pen. You can get those on Amazon. Just make sure you get one of those. It has a door in it. Never lift him over it. Always make him go through the door. Otherwise it teaches them to climb out of it. So it's better than kenneling. No dog should be in a kennel for longer than 4 hours or release cortisol, the stress hormone in their blood. And if you have dogs that are not getting enough exercise, that's really a bad combination. So once we get to the point where, the doggy stairmaster, we do it with an empty stomach the first time, and we'll keep doing it until the dog tells you it's done. Now we know what the maximum number. We want to exercise, like I said, 50 to 75% of that maximum number multiple times a day. And before you go for work, that's definitely one where you want to give probably a little bit more, because they do have energy bursts in the morning and the evening. And so if you give them that extra exercise, it'd be nice if you could, because when they're asleep, it takes us a while, it takes me a while at least to wake up. But then they recharge their batteries. So what I would probably do is put one of them outside to do their business, or put them both outside to do their business, bring one of them in at a time and do the doggy stairmaster with one dog. Then put that dog outside, let it cool off in the nice cool weather, bring the next dog in and do the same thing. And then that way you've exercised them first. You go shower, do your morning ritual. When you get done showering, then you can feed them. Now they usually need to to use the facilities 5 minutes after eating. So if we get them all working up, that'll help with their digestive tract. And then we burn that energy while we're getting ready, they calming themselves down, and then we can feed them. Just remember that you're going to eat something before you feed them, and feed them one at a time. Structured feeding is what I like to call it. And I have, if you go to doggoneproblems.com, click on where it says dog training tips. There's a section, there's a search box at the top or the right side of the page at the bottom. You can type in structured feeding. I have done this with multiple dogs, and there's free videos that you can watch and figure out how to do that. Boy, you got some good pulling capability. I guess you got those those corgi legs. Okay, so other things to do is start feeding him out of snuffle mat. I would probably do that for dinner because most of us are pretty busy in the morning. But you can also, if he's in an X pen or in him, you could feed him in the kitchen and in the X pen separate and leave those things in. But if he starts chewing up the Omega Paw treat ball, I forgot, or the snuffle mat, maybe you just feed him, and then once that's done, you put those things up so they don't destroy them, so you don't have to rebuy them over and over again. You can also do scent games. You can do the laser just for the laser. Make sure that you don't have them together. Maybe somebody's holding Henry or Henry's outside when we're doing laser. But you can do laser out in the backyard if he'll chase it at night on snow, as Taylor mentioned. That's an easy way to get some exercise. So, and then scent games. You can also Google scent games. There's a lot of different options for it there. So upping their exercise is not going to fix the problems. It would make fixing the problems easier. And like I said in the video above, exercising them before you go for a walk will produce a much better walk. So just make sure they have at least 10 minutes to recover. Okay, we also talked about introducing rules and enforcing rules. Well, before we talked about that, we talked about dog psychology. Remember, rewarding a dog by breaking a rule is very confusing and frustrating for dogs, and it leads to a lot of other problems. So if you want to reward them, pet them, rub their belly, give them a treat, give them a bully stick, take them for a walk, play tug of war, whatever you want to do, but don't break a rule to reward them. So the rule should be in place for at least 90 days, or as long as the problem's still going on. He's going to get this one from me eventually. I'm running out of room to hold it. But basically, at the end of the 90-day period, if you would like to have the dog on the furniture, which is the first rule, it's because you invited, not because the dog did something nice and we're trying to reward them for doing it. There you go. My hand's getting cramped. So basically, some of the rules we talked about: not being allowed in the kitchen when we're preparing food. Not being allowed within 7 feet of a human who's eating in the dining room or in here. If you're eating here on the ottoman, I would say that the strip in between the carpet and the couch is off limits, as well as the carpet. There's a little throw rug right here under the camera. And so you're not allowed to go on that while we're cooking or while we're eating. The rest of the time you can come and go as you please. Now, I showed the guardians how to use the escalating consequences, but Stanley was challenging one of the guardians. So whenever we have a dog that is showing any sorts of challenging, we back up. How can we make the exercise easier and less? We don't want to use any force or punishment. So for Stanley, for this, because he was challenging his guardian, we want to have the dogs learn to leave the room voluntarily. So throw those treats. Make sure the dog has all 4 paws outside. And it's just right outside the area. And when they lick up the treat, say the word out. And I would actually recommend you do to every room in your house. Have a whole bunch of treats, go in there with each dog separately, throw it out of the kitchen in the living room, and when he goes out of the kitchen, say the word out. It comes back to it a second time, then throw it out down the stairs, or at least on the little landing at the other side of your kitchen. You can say out on this carpet. You can do it downstairs in front of the couch, around the dining room table, wherever it is. So you're qualifying it. Out means move away and get rewarded for doing so. After a while, you can say the command word. The dog's willing to do that. We also, another rule is, well, like I mentioned, not being allowed on the furniture. You might want to, I would probably recommend getting those X mats. They're not expensive. They'd be about $50-$60, but the amount of time and effort you have to put into it, great. And remember, if the dog's on the ground and trying to get up, don't stand here like this and sit here the whole time. Just sit here, and as soon as the dog jumps up, flash your hand to block them. We don't want our dogs to get hurt, but if they kind of crash in our hand and crash on the floor, sometimes that helps them learn a little bit better. But it's just no fun for you to be policing it the whole time yourself. So another rule is you have to sit at the door. Go to the door, say sit one time. The dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds. I walk away, I sit down somewhere nearby, probably in the basement, wait for 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back and tell the dog to sit. And again, this would be an exercise easier to accomplish by doing each dog separately. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, then I walk away, sit down for 1 minute. Make sure you're seated. That part is important. And then after 1 minute, go back to the door, tell the dog again to sit. If it doesn't sit within 3 seconds, this time I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. Keep double the length of time. But boy, as soon as that dog sits down, that door needs to fly open as fast as you can. Eventually do it on both directions, but start off with whatever direction the dog's motivated. The dog really wants to go outside, do it with its inside. If it wants to be outside and it's already outside and say sit, I already got what I want. So after a while, the dog will sit at the door as a way of saying, I'd like to go outside, please. Let me see. I think there might be some other rules that you can incorporate. Remember, a rule is something a dog likes to do, wants to do, has the ability to do, but doesn't do without invitation. So for feeding, go to the structured feeding like I talked about, but putting a leash on, you got to stay calm throughout the process, like we talked about in the video above. If Henry is going to be allowed on the bed, he has to sit before I invite him up on the bed, or whatever the case may be. So try to look for ways to delay gratification, add a qualification, so they have to do something for you, especially for you, with him. And so they see that I can't just take what I want, I have to pay her for the privilege of whatever X, Y, or Z is. And after a while, they'll start doing it more and more often. Also, remember, teach your dog a drop command. So when they have a high value item in their mouth like this, hold up a treat here. He doesn't want to give it up. So this is a perfect example. He doesn't want to let go of the bully stick. Drop. And then he gets to go back to it. Now there I was holding it. It's a little bit of a different scenario. What I would normally do when he has something in his mouth, quietly pull out a treat, hold it up against his nose, and just touch his nose and just hold it right here. Don't say any words. Wait for him to do it. When he does, then we pop the treat in his mouth, say the word drop, and don't pick up the item. This is why we want to shape this or start this off with his toys that they're happy to give up. When they have high value items and we're going to take it from them, then that's going to teach them don't drop it because the human's just going to jack you for your stuff. So let me see. We also went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if you want to pet the dog, or the dog is nudging you or pawing at you or jumping on your lap for attention. If he jumps on your lap, remember, if he's not allowed the furniture, it should take that away. And you can always go down and cuddle with him. They just can't come up to you. So basically, for if I want to pet the dog, I tell, here, I'll show you right here with Stanley. Sit. Sit. If Stanley came up and he was nudging me with his nose, I would tell him to sit over here or tell him to lie down. He has to do something to change his state. When he does, I'm going to pet him under his chin whenever possible. Pet him anywhere you want. Just don't reach over the head. But all things are equal. Pet him under his chin. And then say the word sit only. Or if you lay down, crash or chill or whatever your word is. Remember, the first word that we say is what dogs hear the most. So don't say good boy or good job or good sit. Just sit. Just potty. Also, if you go to my website and type in Summit, there's a puppy that I have a video on that potty training you can watch and it'll make it easier for you to find. It'll actually be, Summit will be the session directly below yours. So if you find it on the list, it'll be the next one in English Cream. So for potty, wait for the dog to potty. When it starts pottying, say the word and then give them a treat and then say the word a second time. Remember, I say it twice. Once during what I call the command stage, once during the reward stage. So when I say sit, I tell him to sit. When he sits, I pet him and I tell him why I'm paying him. So if he demands attention, he nudges me with his hand, I'm going to tell him to sit and give him a counter order. If he doesn't, then I pet him under his chin or wherever I want, except for on top of the head. Pet him as much or as little as I want. If he doesn't, playing hard to get works great for dating. It works great for dogs too. Show him I got something else to do. Hold hands with your partner. Watch a little TV. Make a sandwich or whatever it is. So I say, oh, where did I sit? I could have been getting that attention. And even, like I said, even if you want to pet him, you're going to still tell him to sit. Now, eventually he's going to sit in front of you to prepay for attention. When he does that, make sure you pet him at least once. Otherwise, he's going to go back to the other things. Use the watchword of paycheck if you suspect someone's petting without a purpose. And even if that person was doing it right, they would stop petting, tell the dog to sit again. When it sits, pet him under his chin, say sit, and then say, I actually did it right. But thank you for reminding me because I do forget. I love you, and I appreciate you supporting me. Remember, it's not a gotcha. It's just a gentle reminder. We also talked about passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior that you want. So if the Corgi, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to do it on command. Passive training is not influencing. It's just recognizing and rewarding when it happens. So if he comes up to me, I'm going to, there we go. Well, he's sniffing. If he does, I'm going to pet him and I'm going to say the word come. Come. Perfect. Sit. So what it is, you wait for the dog to do the thing that you want and then you pet him or reward him. Most of us are unaware of the fact that good attention and bad attention is the same thing for dogs. So the dog jumps up at the door, we correct him. Well, actually, let's do it the other way. The dog comes to us, we ignore it. It sits in front of us, we ignore it. It lays down, ignore it. Drops a ball, ignore it. The one starts jumping at the door, chewing our backpack, barking, going after the other dog. Then we immediately interrupt him. Well, the fastest way to get the human's attention, even though it's negative attention, which we look as a negative, they don't. So I'm going to be trained to do all the things the humans don't want me to do because grabbing the shoe and running around the house gets my humans to chase me. Sitting in front of them doesn't do a darn thing. Well, after a while, they'll start sitting to prepay for attention. Now, you can do this for all your toys. Name all your individual toys. All balls can be balls, all bones can be bones. But every time the dog brings you a little elephant, call it Trump. Every time it brings you a little, car, call it, Speedy. Goes to the dog bed, come up with a name for that dog bed. I'm guessing they almost never use that dog bed because it's in the corner of the room. Do they ever use it?
Sometimes.
sometimes. If you want to get them to use it more, just drop a treat on it. Come up with a fun word that means go to the dog bed. Again, don't do this with both dogs at the same time. Also, if you get another dog bed, that's a very stylish one that you have, but it has a pattern on it. And dogs' eyes are not very good for color or pattern, so I usually recommend light gray, lighter than this shade, white, or a light cream, solid color for a dog bed. And then I just leave the treat on there. Well, the dog sees it because it's light color, and they run across. As long as they have one paw or more on the dog bed, say Jamaica or whatever you want the dog bed word to be. Eventually, you say Jamaica, the dog runs over the dog bed. Let me see. We talked about the escalating consequences. Message me if you forgot how to do those. That's what we did with the kitchen. Now, remember, if you get to the kitchen and Stanley is growling for you, stop and then practice more on the leave it exercise. And I want the guardians to be swapping. There's kind of a blended family here. The female guardian, this is originally her dog. Stanley is the male guardian's dog. I call everyone guardian instead of owner. And now they're blended together. So I want them to practice working with each other dog. So I'd like Stanley to work with the female guardian and vice versa, like for walks and things along those lines. So I'd like each one of them to get a walk separately with the opposite guardian, which is no longer, we're not going to refer to as opposite anymore. And then a group walk as well, maybe after dinner. So when we're doing a group walk, then we're going to keep the leash nice and short so nobody's in front. It's going to be man-wife or wife-man, and then dog-dog. So the dog, it's a line. Nobody's in front, nobody's behind. We need them to start having shared experiences together. Something else you can do, this is a bully stick. Now, they both really like these bully sticks. There's another one right here. Oh. And that is natural. It's not aggression. It's I had the bully stick, and now you took it away from me, and I'm saying I disagree with it. We should never punish a dog for growling. And I did kind of pull it away. I was trying to show them that there's a little piece down there. But see, that can very quickly turn into a fight. So, but we would like the activity of them both chewing on things together, because chewing is a very calming, soothing activity. So what we might do is we might take a leash and run it around the leg of a couch and then through the handle. And then Stanley is attached to that side of the couch. And then Henry over here is attached to this one. So they could both be in the room. They could both have bully sticks, but we have the leashes sized up. They can't reach each other. That will help the humans feel like, I know, I'm confident they can't get to each other. Now, if they're staring at each other, growling, remember, we never want to punish or growl, but if they're staring and growling at each other, then we probably need a little bit more distance. So we maybe put Henry in the kitchen and Stanley over here, and we have Henry around, because I just think that Henry will, or Stanley probably pull your whatever that thing your coffee maker is on, he'll probably pull that table around. But the idea is we want them to practice doing things together. Sometimes we do things called pair treating. I can't demonstrate right now because I'm going to take this away, he'll growl again. But basically, if I have one dog sitting here, one dog sitting here, I pull out two treats, tell them, or I pull out two treats and tell them to sit. When they sit, I'm treating here and here at the same time. There you go, buddy. And so they both got a treat at the same time. One other thing, I didn't ask the guardians about this off camera. A lot of times people go out of their way to be fair. So if I pull out a treat, both dogs are getting a treat. I pull out one treat and say, come. Whoever comes first gets the treat. Whoever comes second doesn't get a darn thing. If they both give me the same effort, then I would train, and he's got shorter legs, so I might give him a little bit of a cushion. But I want to pay them for performance. Most of us create a scenario where the dogs compete to be disobedient. Well, if I pull out one treat and say, come, and whoever gets it first, now I'm motivated to make sure I'm first. And again, if they come at the same time, then they both get rewarded. So the leave it exercise and practice drops whenever you get an opportunity to. And remember, and I don't know if when you watch this video again, when you notice he kind of froze a little bit when I started trying to pull it away from him. Freezing and movement is a good indication that I am uncomfortable with you. It's a warning. And also staring is usually the first precursor to fights. If you notice they're doing that, you might want to teach them a focus exercise. Taylor and I did it with Stanley, both at different times when we were doing the session. We didn't go over it. If you go to doggonproblems.com, in the search box, type in focus. I've done this with hundreds of clients. So if Stanley's staring at Henry, I say focus, he looks up at me, and then a treat's coming here. Well, I give him a great motivation to want to move away. Now, I'd like the guardians to, in addition to the walks, I want them to start building up. There's when you teach someone, they have a lot of respect for you, in most cases. So what I'd like, come. And remember, that's celebrate. So watchwords, let's talk about those real quick. Paycheck means I suspect you're petting without a purpose. Celebrate means you missed an opportunity to reward the dog for something you want. Vocabulary means you're using a different version of the command word. Scrabble means you're using too many words, and repeat or rerun. Celebrate that.
Hey.
Perfect. And so he just did two of them. That was awesome. After a while, you get in a habit, you don't even think about it. But now, through our actions, we'll be rewarding the dogs for all the things that we want. Now, because we have respect for teachers and people who help us accomplish certain things, I'd like the guardians to get in a habit of teaching the dogs new tricks or commands for the next 2 months. So 1 week, Guardian A is going to teach them separately how to roll over, or whatever she wants to teach them. Then after the dogs know it, you want a treat, roll over. You want to go outside, roll over. You want your food, roll over. Roll over for everything. You look at the dog, eventually just rolling over. And if you do roll over, I usually recommend play dead as the next trick because they're kind of linked in terms of stuff that they're going over. So after the next week, then you take over, and then the guardian, and you're teaching both dogs separately, but both dogs. And the next week, the other guardian takes over and teaches a new trick or command, bang, you're dead. So you want your food, bang, you're dead. After a while, after 2 months, they'll both know 8 new commands, plus the ones they already have. Once dogs reach 10 commands, they reach a sort of tipping point. Taylor, who's filming this, was just bragging to me a little bit. Her dog knows, I think, 26, 28 commands, which is awesome. And the more, just like us, the more skills that we learn, it kind of insulates us from other things. We're not insecure, we're confident. And the more confidence we can build in these dogs by giving them these new skills will pay off dramatically. It also gives us the ability to redirect them. They start staring. We have them do a focus. We have them do circle. We have them roll over, bang, you're dead. I'm not beefing at my buddy anymore. I'm playing dead. Come on, give me a treat for this. And so it's just a very healthy thing to do. I think we'll work with probably with Stanley again when we start doing our loose leash walking class. But if you have any questions on the stuff that's in this video or anything we didn't go over in the video or even in the session, please call me or text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume that everything's going great. So I want to hear from my clients if things are not working. It's very normal the week or two after the session to make little adjustments, the stuff we do based on how the dogs are behaving. And if it's a weird behavior and something you can capture, filming it sideways like this camera is, from about 10 feet away, keep it about less than a minute. You can text those to me, and I can look at that in context and give you a little bit more information. But please text me if you have any questions or problems. I get so many emails and phone calls. I want to get to you right away. So just text me, include your name, your dog's name, a picture of your dog really helps. And I had a quick question: when he's doing this, what do I do in this situation? All right, well, this is Henry. We're gonna move it over here. There he is. That was quick. And he froze. So that's a great illustration, example. So he might have a resource guarding problem. Does he ever growl when he approaches, when he has something? Now, that's not necessarily a resource guard. That's a very normal thing. When a dog is doing something, if another dog gets within 7 feet, is a way of challenging. But if he freezes like that, he might go after him, and that can be a fight. So that might have been the staring. The guardian, there have been a couple of dust-ups between the two. If the guardians weren't sure, it was out of context, they didn't know what it was, well, that staring might have been the precursor, and there might have been a high-value item or something like that. So if the resource guarding is a very normal problem, and I've helped hundreds of dogs, so if you notice that, let me know. I can show you how to fix it. It's just best to get it fixed so you don't have to worry about it happening again. All right, Stanley. This is Stanley. Oh, 2 other things. When you come home, if they're excited, ignore them. And when you leave, don't say a word to them. When they get it, when Stanley calms down, start reaching for him. You reach, see how his ears came up right there? That's okay. But he starts wiggling, pull your arm back and go about doing your thing. You'll probably have to start reaching and stopping, petting them, like anywhere from like 4 to 10 times when you come home from work before they figure it out. And eventually they'll get better and better at it. So make sure you're working on that. And remember, if the dog jumps up on you, you pet it, you're rewarding the dog for jumping up. So I'm going to say my little catchphrase at the very end of this, but remember it, because all the things that we do are the reason the dogs develop these bad habits. Well, this handsome fellow right here is Stanley, and this is Henry. I moved it, that's why he froze. And this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.